During the Liturgy of the Eucharist, there are many items that are used to bless the sacrament. In order to prepare the altar space, the priest will first set out a white cloth known as a corporal. This is the cloth used to designate space on the altar for the blessing. Next, the priest will have altar bread on a small dish known as a paten. The paten will hold a large host big enough for the congregation to see what is happening. The priest will use a cup or chalice for the wine that will become the blood of Christ. The priest will also use a purificator, which is a napkin to wipe the edge of the chalice after each person has been served the blood of Christ. During the procession of the gifts, altar bread, which is unblessed, and wine and water are brought forth to the altar. Altar bread is brought forth in a container known as a ciborium. A ciborium will then be used to distribute the Eucharist as well by the Eucharistic ministers. The wine and water are brought forth in cruets. Cruets are small jars used to hold water and wine during the blessing. But the wine is mixed into the chalice with a drop of water before it is blessed.
The section that I'm going to be talking about is the Liturgy of the Word. And first of all, usually the lector or the person who reads comes up to the ambo, which is this stand. But in conjunction with that, people in the congregation have something called Today's Missal or the Missalette, and this is a collection of readings, the responses, songs that goes through the liturgical calendar. Right now it's an ordinary time and by date, so you can follow along and participate with the Missalette. Now when we get to the liturgical part of the liturgical word, we come to the ambo. We have a lector, a person who comes up and reads, and they read from the lectionary of weekday Mass, and this contains the first reading, the second reading, the responsorial psalm, the Alleluia, and this one is for weekday Masses, not so much Sunday Mass, but this is a person who reads from this ambo. The other parts of the Liturgy of the Word come from the sacramentary. The sacramentary is a book that rests open on the altar. This is a book that contains the whole order of the Mass. The priest would read from here. This has the prayers and the responses in it, and he uses this to help with the order of the Mass. And the other book that the priest would use is the Book of the Gospel. And the priest reads from this, and he proclaims the Gospel from this book. This Book of Gospels goes in conjunction with the order of the Mass, depending on if we're in the A, B, or C cycle of the liturgy.
Okay, so here are some extra items used within the celebration of the Mass. Typically, you'll see an altar server, sometimes the deacon or even the priest, use what's called an incensor. An incensor is filled with incense. You can see how the top comes off. And the incense is typically held in the incense boat. And they use it to bless, to pray over certain items or parts of the Mass. Think about it as our prayers raising as the incense does towards the heavens. Next up is the aspergillium, and this is another item that you'll see an altar server typically holding. It's filled with holy water, and during special blessings, during liturgies or prayer services, the altar server will bring this up to the priest, where he will take the wand-like item, which will fill up with water, and bless the people in the congregation. When you feel the holy water come onto you, you do the sign of the cross on you to represent being blessed. Okay, next up is the monstrance, and this is a pretty small monstrance, but typically during adoration, when the communion is a part of Jesus, he is fully present in that host. When you want to pray to it, you would open this up, and the priest would place a host in the monstrance, showing that Jesus is fully present. It is a prayerful experience because we fully believe that he is present in that host. This is typically held on the top of an altar or a prayerful area for adoration, each first Friday of the month or for specific prayer services. Behind me is a very special candle. This is called the Paschal candle. And at churches, like parishes like St. John Newnes or St. Mel's, you'll see this out at all times. Here at Chaminade, it's typically held in the chapel. But we receive this candle every year on Holy Saturday. It's hence the name Paschal candle. And it represents the liturgical year, Alpha and Omega, and is lit for every liturgical experience. So by the time that Holy Saturday comes around again, you'll see that it looks a lot shorter. Every parish has their own Paschal candle, and here at Chaminade we have our own too. Last but not least is the sacristy. The sacristy is a special room, here's the door to ours, where everything is kept for Mass. So all the items you've learned about, all these special things that we don't just keep lying around, go into our sacristy. And then lastly, the sacristy candle, which is right over here, the red candle, helps us know when Jesus is fully present in the Eucharist. So in the tabernacle, which we'll be seeing in another video, you will know when there is something in the tabernacle, when it's no longer just altar bread, but fully present Jesus in communion. You'll see a light on the sacristy candle. Here is the tabernacle. The tabernacle is a very special and sacred part of our chapel. Every parish, no matter which parish you go to, does have their own tabernacle, typically in separate chapels if it's a newer parish. This is the cabinet in which hosts are kept. Once they've gone through the process of transubstantiation, they no longer can just be left out, on the table or in a locker. They have to be somewhere, sacred, somewhere holy. So that's what a tabernacle is. It is the cabinet in which hosts are kept. So I'm going to open this cabinet up, this tabernacle, for you to see. And right now, Jesus is fully present in the tabernacle. The sacristy light is on, and we're going to prayerfully open this up. So in the tabernacle, you can see 2 ciboriums with Jesus fully present hosts inside our tabernacle. These are kept lock and key because it is so sacred and important to us in the Catholic faith. And that's the tabernacle. Have you ever wondered what's the difference between a crucifix and a cross? Well, here it is. A cross, as you can see right here, is simply an image of a cross, like what Jesus was crucified on. However, if you see a crucifix, what Mrs. Tehan is holding, it is a cross with an image of Jesus on it. Okay? Cross, no Jesus. Crucifix, Jesus. And that's the difference between a cross and a crucifix.
So I'll be talking to you about vestments. The first thing that a priest would do to getting ready for Mass is he would get his alb. He would put this alb on, and this would be the first garment that the priest would put on prior to saying the Mass. The deacon would this would be this last garment that he would put on. Afterwards, he would go on and put on the cincture. And depending on the liturgical season, this would also be in difference of color. Afterwards, the priest would go on and put on his chasuble. Again, depending on the liturgical season, this could be a different color. Green would indicate ordinary time. So we would put this on, if I can put it on. He would put that on there. And then the last step would be the stole. A priest would wear this on either side. That would indicate that he is a priest. Or a deacon would wear it on just one side, like so.